G'day there. Woo! I'm so excited. Today, I'm going to be answering your burning hot questions about the very new Star Wars game, Star Wars Outlaws. Thank you so much to Ubisoft Australia and New Zealand for giving me the opportunity to trial the game before it's come out. Have I finished the game of the filming of this video? Not entirely, but I have played it enough to be able to answer a lot of your questions. I took to YouTube and Instagram to ask you guys, the public, what you wanted to know about this game and what I could answer for you. And we're going to be doing that today. That's what we do. I've got my questions. We're going to get into it. So again, this is my honest review. These are my personal subjective thoughts answering your questions you have about Star Wars Outlaws. Very first question coming in from WolfA159 on Instagram is, what is the vibe of the game? This is a great question, and I thought this was a great one to start off with. The vibe, I mean, you've seen it in all the promotion material. The bounty hunter-esque is a heavy part of this game. Playing as Kay Vess, you are this bounty hunter. Her personal story and actual narrative is not that strong or loud in terms of the game narrative, because it allows for you to really explore and become the bounty hunter that you want this character to be. There's a heavy emphasis on you choosing what contracts you take on with different syndicates, crime syndicates, and which kind of path you take. It's very much choose your own adventure, and you decide with who you want to side. And that's such a big part of this game. So the vibe is very much bounty hunter, outlaw. Like, I get that the name makes it make sense now, because you are this outlaw. You're winning your freedom, essentially. You're trying to buy your way out of the underworld, doing contracts, helping people, siding with people. It's a very gunslinger. There's a lot of, you can get into so much combat and skirmishes, and the flight battles of everything is really quite complex, especially, figuring out who you want to be, friends with and like alliance with, and then who you want to be against. So the vibe is very much bounty hunter. It is you choose your own, don't trust anyone, and you choose your own destiny. The next question coming in from a master of the channel, Yava Trooper, coming in saying, is the leveling system good? Do the enemies seem like they're overpowered or too weak? The combat style is really interesting, and I find every syndicate has a slightly different way and different method to go about defeating them. And it isn't just how quickly can you shoot them all or how quickly can you headshot them all down. It's very much you got to look at the scene, you got to look at the context, the environment, and go, okay, what can I do here? How can I defeat the enemy in this situation? For me, at least, it's pretty well matched with the difficulty of like how comfortable I was with the game. So, early on, quite simple, 1 or 2 enemies in a room or an area, shoot them down and keep moving on. But, many hours into the game, you're getting hordes of stormtroopers. You're trying to figure out, it's just you against them, but how do I go about it? You got to find a grenade launcher. You got to find an explosive. You got to shoot that barrel of fuel and go about it that way. So I felt like it actually matched, the difficulty of, what enemies were coming at you, matched, for me at least, the difficulty of where I was at and the comfortability of where I was at in the game. Also coming from YouTube is a question from Bailey Silver 9267, asks the question, how does the game feel compared to Jedi Fallen Order / Survivor? This is a fantastic question and a big question that I had coming into this game. Obviously, I've played through both those games for hours and hours to great extent. I've streamed them a lot here on the channel, and I adore those games, so I can't wait to answer this question because I have so many thoughts on this personally the whole time. I remember the very first time I opened the game, I was like, okay, how is this? Oh, that's like Fallen Order. That's not like Fallen Order. Like, I was already just making those comparisons in my head. I love this question. Very, very good question. Because at least, for the most modern campaign, it's obviously the thing that we're going to be comparing this game to, for me anyway. But it's a good question because it's similar, but it's not also similar. There are things that are very alike. The climbing, the POV, the sort of general balance of cutscene to task. Generally, I feel this game has a lot more mission, a lot more tasks and things to complete to unlock things. A lot more than Fallen Order or Survivor. I think in just general, Star Wars Outlaws has so much more emphasis on the actual tactical what you're doing in the underworld. And again, it has that open world. They use that term. I'll probably use this term a lot. very much open world strategy, choose your own adventure. So the narrative is a lot less for me. I found there was a lot less emphasis on who Kay was. I mean, you obviously get to know her and her background and her story unravels as the game goes on. But it was to a lot lesser degree than it was Cal's. So Cal's story, character development, and who he was really the core of Jedi Fallen Order. That was kind of the purpose of that game, the drive of that game. That was a big part of that game where, every kind of mission you were doing with Cal was something to do with his character or finding something out about himself. Where this game, that really isn't the case. As much as everything is from Kay's POV, and you're getting to know this character, there's a lot more just natural focus on learning more about the syndicates and those personalities and all the personalities within the underworld, and just going throughout the game, the balance of that. I would say it was it's like 25% narrative, 75% mission, task, doing things, shooting up shit and doing fun underworld stuff. It's about 75% where Fallen Order, I could almost say, is like a 50-50 almost, or even like 60% narrative, 40% mission, in terms of balance. So I think that sort of, I mean, I could go into minute detail, but that concept of the differences of those two narratives, I think wraps up, the basic difference between Fallen Order and Survivor and what it's like to Outlaws. But there are very small things, like I said, you can climb the same way, you can customize things like in Fallen Order. You can level up your abilities a little bit like in Fallen Order. So there's similar things, but those are just kind of general RPG similar things. So, just generally kind of the same. Another question incoming from one of the masters of the channel, Master Saj, coming in with a question is, how big is the open world? Is it just a big map with a few towns on it, or actual whole planet? Yes and no to what you've said here. Is it a whole planet? Can you go around the whole thing? No, you can't. Is it a big map with towns? Yes, but it's a lot bigger than I anticipated, to be honest. To me, something like, speaking of Fallen Order and Survivor, those maps are pretty big and they felt like big worlds to me. These maps are much, much bigger than the ones we got in even Survivor. I mean, Fallen Order, they were a bit smaller. Survivor were quite big, but the maps in Outlaws are even bigger than that for me. Of course, I haven't even mentioned yet in this video, but the speeder bike element of this and being able to jump on a speeder bike, you got to go to the next town, you got to go to the valley, you got to go to here or there. Like, I'm driving. Like, I'm sitting there driving for a few minutes to get to this place, this destination, to, like, do this thing, do this task, meet this person. And I'm sitting there driving for quite a while. So the distance is a big element of this game. But I feel like that the planets I've explored I feel like I've spent hours and hours on each planet. I feel like I have barely seen half of it, honestly, because the expansiveness of it. And it's not just kind of 2 or 3 towns. There's easily about 5 towns per planet, 5 destinations, and then towns in between that, and there's settlements in between that. There's quite a lot to explore with each planet. And again, from comparing it in the mindset of Jedi Fallen Order or Survivor, I think a lot of people have played those games. If I can compare it to that, definitely these maps are bigger than that. Is it a whole planet, though? It's not an entire whole planet. It's not like a Lego Star Wars, the Skywalker Saga, for example, where it's like kind of whole planet in a way. But actually, it's actually similar to that game now that I say that aloud. But you also got to take in consideration, you can go in the atmosphere as well. You can go, there's quite a lot of space. There's a lot of space in space, really. That's to answer that. Next question coming in from my good buddy Indie Yoda 013 on Instagram. First question is, fave thing about Kay versus personality. Favorite thing, this isn't about her personality, but her jacket is absolutely amazing and I want one. And also, I thought I looked like her. I should get if I get bangs, I'll look like Kay Vess. But her personality, honestly, she's not like too... What's the word I'm going for? She's very like steady. She's just kind of like takes it as it is. And this actually kind of goes into just talking about the narrative and the game thing. Like, she's very steady. Like I said, there's not a big emphasis on like, oh, this is Kay's journey. It's like this, you're just going through her POV. But I think that they've made her character and personality very steady. She's very steady mind. She's very confident, quietly confident. So you can really put into like a lot of what you want out of the game into her POV. For me, at least, that's what I felt. If I wanted to be more, I was wanting to be quite shy and subdued and doing missions and not doing crazy things. But then I've really tried to expand her character as well, by, double crossing people and like being like super criminal, so you could really kind of expand her a little bit, but put in a summary of what I think of her, what my favorite thing about her personality, just her confidence. It's really easy to relate to, and she just makes it cool. It makes it really cool. Like I said, give me bangs and I'm K-Vess. Oh, Indiego's got a second question, and I already have an answer to this. Favorite connection to other Star Wars media? The one that stands out to me is that there's a crashed High Republic ship that is on Tashara, and it's very, very early on in the game. So even though it's kind of a spoiler, like you find it very early on. That was such an awesome connection. I was like, fantastic to put this in here. Really, really cool. I'm a High Republic fan, so other people might not be as jazzed about that, but I was. I was like, wow, damn, cool. Very Survivor feel there. Next question from Instagram. Jeez, what is this name? Fordo is better than Keller? Is that what that name is? I think that's what that name is. How is the fight mechanics? How's the fight mechanics? The fight mechanics, really interesting. I started touching on this earlier with a previous question, but it's quite tactical. It's not just kind of run in, shoot everyone. It's not like a Battlefront campaign in that, if I can kind of sort of relate it to that. It's very much crouch behind the thing. Where's the, find the enemies. Nyx, no one's asking about Nyx, but I'm going to talk about Nyx anyway. You got to send Nyx to go get you a gun because you got to shoot an ion thing to drop that thing over there. And I'm just going to, I'm going to pick up a sniper and, snipe some people. And then, you know what I really like about her combat actually is when you're in stealth mode, right? And there's a bit of stealth mode in here. I know people are kind of up and down about stealth mode. There is a lot of stealth mode, just warning. Creeping up behind someone and you just press X and you kill them straight away. That's cool. That's dope. They're not shying away from that. She just clocks them out and puts them on the ground dead cold. Well, to be honest, I don't know if they're dead or just out cold. In terms of actual skirmish against, a group of syndicates or whoever you're versing, very cool. I enjoyed it. It's quite multifaceted. Like I said, you're not just kind of shooting at random. You really got to focus on who's there and who's shooting, what weapons people have. Different weapons work on different enemies. Random fact, Gamorrean guards in this game, if you get in the Tatooine DLC package, warning, Gamorrean guards are the hardest possible enemies. For some reason, they're the most impenetrable enemy to face. It took me 20 minutes to kill one of them in this one hallway. Shocking. But maybe that's more of a user error, maybe. But I still think they're pretty solid. Instagram question coming from the Dwarf Lord 1. This is a Nyx question, so I'm going to drop all my Nyx info in this question. Can you play as the little shoulder guy, calling him Nyx? His name's Nyx. Can you play as him? No, but because you can kind of use him in a way. So you're not in the POV of Nyx, but Nyx is with you the whole time. He's your counterpart. He's your companion. And he is not there just as a cute Star Wars creature to be a part of, a great promo for the game. He's very useful, and there's a lot of situations, not with combat, but also just completing tasks. They showed this a little bit in the gameplay trailer, but definitely not enough to how cool it actually is. Once you get the hang of it, it took me a good hour to actually realize how much he is useful and how much I can use with him. But once I got the hang of him, it's so cool. You in combat, you're about to die. You send Nyx over to get you a Bacta spike to get your health back up. You're getting him to bring guns. You're getting him to open doors to, you can't fit through, so you send Nyx through. It opens the door. There's a lot of that as well. So you can't play as him, but you're constantly, you hold down and there's a bunch of things you can do. You can get him to attack someone for you, to hold something down for you. You can really just send him anywhere. So he's actually a really key. It's almost like he's a tool for you, which I feel bad. I feel like I'm, not appreciating him enough. I do appreciate Nyx. He's very cute, but he's so helpful. He's so helpful. And I've really, really enjoyed getting used to that element of the game with him. Notice any bugs or glitches yet? Thacky Candy, shout out my fellow Aussie. Thank you for asking that question on Instagram. I think there's a few people that ask this question as well. Yes, I have some hilarious ones. The main one got, this was flagged to be fair, but I experienced was I had I think it was a pike. I killed a pike and, you know, they made like a generic grunt sound as they died and it went rah. And then it glitched out and it did that sound for about 50 times, maybe for like a minute and a half. It was just going rah, rah, rah. But it was just a glitch. He wasn't, and like the scene wasn't happening. Like he wasn't still like doing anything. He was definitely dead, but the audio glitched out and he just grunted for a minute and a half, which was quite. There's also one other glitch. But to be fair, these glitches aren't actually that insane. Like they don't really affect the gameplay. In certain cantinas, there's like arcade games that you can like play, like in the cantina. That it's like a little. It's nothing to do with the story. It's just like this arcade you can go up to, press A, and you can play the game. But the screen on the actual arcade game glitches. Unless that's an actual thing, like you're not meant to play it. But it seems like the dialogue seems like you're about to play something, but the screen is glitching out for me. So those are the two glitches I'm having with it. But yeah, I don't know if they'll get fixed, but we shall see. We'll finish with the question from Star Wars.nerd00 on Instagram, coming in saying, would you say it's actually worth it? Now, this is a big part of the discussion, I think, around this game. Fairly so. Games are expensive. They're getting more expensive, and this has a bunch of DLC packages attached to it, and that has been a big qualm for people. And, you know, I've... Fair enough. Like, I had to consider that myself, like what is worth it. I think we'll get into this more detail by the end of the week. Again, like once as of filming this, I haven't completely completed the game. But I, at the moment, would say if you just got the very, like the basic package of it, which I don't know how much that is where you are. I think that's around $80, $90 here in Australia. The absolute basic with no Tatooine DLC and none of the other DLCs as well. It's worth it. It's definitely worth it. Are the DLCs cool and fun and epic? Yes. Is it imperative and is the game not enjoyable without it? No, not at all. I think you can still have such a fun game and such a fun story being that underworld gunslinger, bounty hunter, whatever you want to call Kay at this point, because again, it's just this POV of the underworld. You got the Pikes, you got Crimson Dawn, you've got the Ashiga clan. You get these clans, these characters, these so much familiarity with this game that feels so good. And that's one thing I don't think I've touched on too much in these questions yet, but the familiarity and the aesthetic of this game. 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10. This is the first thing that was 10 out of 10 for me, was the look of this game, was the detail, the aliens, there's weak ways, there's Quarren, there's so many aliens and familiar things about that just felt so good. And you can really have a great time just with the basic package of it, which I would say is worth it. But some people, that might not be worth it. That might not be interesting to them. If you want, you know, a big Jedi story, you know, this isn't going to be that game for you. They've been very clear in that, like, you know, this is, they don't want to touch on the Jedi Sith element of Star Wars with this game. They're not wanting to add to that lore. They're building the lore and jumping into the depth of the underworld. And that has been so successful. I think them defining that, when I say them, I mean like Ubisoft and Massive Entertainment, them defining that for themselves has come across quite clearly in the game. And I think that's actually really benefited the game for me, because there's not that kind of, how is this in the movie or whatever. It's just like, hey, we're just jumping in the underworld of these planets. We're just shooting people. We're making deals. We're being a cool bounty hunter. And that's the full energy of the game. So that's worked for me. So if that's something that you're into, or you just love that detail of Star Wars of just like flying around, shooting up people and doing cool missions, it's the game. It's worth it, 100%. Even the basic package without the DLCs, worth it. But if that's not something you're into, then it's probably not worth it for you. So, I don't know. Just try and take all of this rambling and see if it would be worth it for you. It's subjective, of course. So, like I said, this isn't my full review of the game yet. This will be dropping. That will be dropping later on in this week. But if you're watching this way after the fact, it's probably already out as well. So make sure you hit that subscribe button so you know when that is dropping out. We will be streaming this game on the channel a bunch as well. So we're gonna have a blast, just having literally and figuratively. We're gonna have such fun in the live chat, playing along with this game, doing crazy missions. Just to say something, ND5, the commando droid that like you befriend, absolutely fantastic. Such a great character. He's fantastic in this game. Just so much fun. And really a great addition to the game as well. But I digress. Make sure you're tuning into all the content I have covering this game. It's going to be a load of fun, and, you know, maybe have a think about picking it up for yourself. If you're, you know, the price, if you're not interested, fair enough. But if you like that underworld feel, just that basic game of it, honestly worth it. I would go for it. But thank you so much for watching. I hope I answered at least a few of your questions and curiosities about the game. I'll see you in the next one, and make sure you always choose the race side.